In this presentation, what I'd like to do is I would like to work on the autonomy part, the A of the ABCD paradigm, and that is helping kids to express their own wishes and work through the communication that goes with decision making when it becomes or when it comes to our relationships, and how do we in that environment, how do we speak up for ourselves, be respectful of our partners, and build what we need to do, the skills that we need to have quality relationships. The first thing that I'd like you to do is to pause this presentation and access this electronic worksheet. You'll see the link on the slides following the screencast. And what I would like you to do is you're only going to complete the very first box, the response box for each of these four scenarios. And what I'd like you to do is when you read those scenarios, I would like you to put yourself in the position of the person that is responding. For example, in scenario number one, John and Anne are boyfriend, girlfriend, and I would like you to read the scenario and then respond as if you were Anne. And our responses that we put are going to help us recognize some things about ourselves, and there is no right or wrong here. What I would like you to do is, again, just write out your responses the best that you can, and then we're going to use those responses to look at our patterns of behavior. When it comes to communication, we already know when you're in relationships, trust and cooperation are paramount for quality relationships. And when you look at this visual representation, what happens is that in a relationship where trust has not been built to a very high level, where trust is low, most of the time cooperation is low also. And what happens then is that when the conflict comes, people will get defensive, and it's about me winning or you losing. It's not really that ability to work together. And then as cooperation and trust builds, we get to that respectful stage where compromise is possible. And compromise is just simply saying, all right, I understand where you are. This is where I am. Is there a way that we can work on this together? And I'll give a little bit, you give a little bit. And then on the very highest level of communication is when there's a high level of trust and a high level of cooperation. It's really about the win-win. And synergistic means, all right, not only do I just need to help me and help you get some kind of resolution here, but going a step further, and how do I even help develop you more, and how do you develop me more? How can we really use each other's skills to even build higher levels of trust and higher levels of cooperation, and our communication will reflect that. So again, communication is all about trust and cooperation and building those skills. We all develop certain response styles when it comes to our communication skills. And the words that we use, aggressive, passive, and assertive, are descriptors of common ways that people will react when they're confronted with a stressful or emotional situation. And these responses are usually learned. What we do is we just copy our behaviors that have worked in the past. And I'm going to give you some examples as we go through here. What I'm going to ask you to do is just kind of identify where you currently stand with your responses. In other words, when you have a strong emotion like anger, are you somebody that expresses that and oftentimes can say and do stuff that hurts other people because of your anger, but at the same time it makes you feel better just to get it out? Are you somebody that when you're angry at somebody, you withdraw, you don't like conflict at all, and so you stuff those feelings deep down inside you and you don't address them with another person? Or are you somebody that recognizes your emotions, recognizes how they might affect another person, and respond in a way that's beneficial for you and for the other person? And those, again, are assertive, passive, and aggressive response styles. To help you kind of see where you're currently at, when you look at these three columns, what I ask students to do is find yourself in each of these circumstances as you kind of read it. And you might not be isolated to one column, but when you read the descriptors, kind of find out what patterns of behaviors do you currently have, and what do you most often respond with, all right? And it will put you into a passive aggressive or assertive person. And it's okay where you're at now. It doesn't really matter. What I'm working on is trying to identify where you're at now and then move you towards a more healthy, consistent way to respond. In your notes, I would like you to put a couple different models to help you recognize response styles, and this is one of them. And I use the UR, I am, or I am, UR to kind of describe these three ways. And what passive people do, again, is you're important, I'm not. What they'll do is, even though they have strong emotions that might cause you to feel a certain way, they will not address the situation. They will stay back and they will allow only the other person's needs to be met. These are people, again, that avoid conflict, that put up walls, that don't speak up, and it's not very healthy. On the other hand, aggressive people, they're the ones that say, I'm important, you're not. They just let their emotions fly, and they really don't care how that affects other people. And again, it's not a healthy way of expressing yourselves, because oftentimes you might feel better in the instance that you're doing it, but it usually leads to some other issues, and therefore you're just trading one problem for another. Assertive people, on the other hand, are more self-aware, and what they try to do is, they say, you're important, I want to respond in a way that's respectful to you, but I have needs also. And so what they're looking for is a way that we can work together to try to work this out. And that gets hard to do, but it's a skill that we all can learn to develop. When it comes to another way, we're really good at passive aggressive behavior. And what I mean by that is that oftentimes we will express ourselves to a person knowing that it's probably not the best thing to say or the right thing to say, or it might hurt them. And it's something that we wouldn't do to them directly. We won't go to them and speak our mind, or we won't, but we will either hide behind a screen and send a text or an email or some other form of communication that allows us the protection to be not in front of that person. Or another way that high school kids and frankly adults use passive aggressive behavior is triangulation. That is where I'm upset at you. I don't really want to address it with you directly, but I know if I go to one of my friends and tell them about it, I know then they'll go to you. And so I can get my message to you without, again, being in that position of you being face to face with me. And while passive aggressive behavior may feel okay at the time, it expresses whatever needs you have with those emotions, it's really a source of drama that we all recognize as being unhealthy. Again, when you look at this slide, these are just traits of passive aggressive behaviors, and we all have these things. We're all capable of doing these things, all right? And so what I'm asking you to do is, how often do you see yourself doing these things? And if you do them a lot, is there a way that you can reduce the number of times that you do that, or that the identifying and then changing your responses so that it's not passive aggressive, but it moves toward a more productive way. Again, there's another way to look at these three responses, and I call this the child, parent, and adult response. And again, this isn't denying your emotions. Your emotions are strong, but how do you then use that, all right? And the child response is simply this: I'm going to act the way I feel. And this is something that we learn really early in life. It's the temper tantrum when we don't get what we want. It's the crying when we're hungry. It's the stomping and demanding things and making a scene until we get our way. And that's just, I'm going to act the way I feel. I really don't care what's going on. I'm just going to get what I need. And unfortunately, many kids don't outgrow that because they've learned as small children that that is productive. If I throw a temper tantrum, I get what I really wanted, and so I continue to do that. Your temper tantrums just look a little bit different. The other thing is parent response, and what I like to share with kids is oftentimes people will impose their experience on you. Teachers do this sometimes, and parents do this. And the way to explain it would be, have you ever been at home after school and everything seems to be going okay with you, but your parent comes home and they start just bitching or ragging at you for something, and you have no idea what you did to deserve that. And it's really a reflection not of what you've done, but they've had a terrible day, and so they kind of take it out on you. Teachers do that. You have 1 hour or one block that they're struggling with, and the next block comes in and they're just sit down, shut up, and their whole attitude towards that block is reflective of what they're feeling towards other kids. And so it's again, you're going to act the way I feel. An adult response is I can't help the way I feel. All right, emotions are emotions, but I can control the way that I think and act. And that's the biggest thing, pausing, not dismissing your emotions, but taking responsibility to say I can think and I can act in a way that's appropriate. One of the best ways that I can teach you to be assertive is through the use of I statements. And I know that some of you have used this before, but this is a model that you can use in your head to pause when you have strong emotions and process and then express yourself in a way that is assertive and healthy. And so I use this example, and you can read it, all right? But I'm going to ask you to use this I statement model. I feel, be able to state your feelings. That's what you identify when, and you need to tell people what's going on. They can't read your mind. And so you have to be very specific at what's happening. Because what do you think it means? Again, giving other people information and processing it yourself, just giving you time to do that will help develop a better outcome. And then the last part is state what you need, all right, what I need, or can we do this, or offer a solution that you believe is win-win, highly cooperative, and respectful of both your needs and your partners. Finally, I'm going to ask you to go back to your electronic worksheet. I'm going to ask you to look at your original responses. And from what I've taught you about assertive passive aggressive behavior or passive aggressive, can you look at the response that you originally made and identify which of those response styles that was? And then I'm going to ask you to write an I statement using the model. And please I want to be very clear on this. When you turn your worksheet in, I will see I statements completed in each of those four things. I will see I feel, right? For example, in the first one, if Anne responds to John about going out with his boys, she's going to say, I feel disappointed. You know she's disappointed because it says it right in the scenario. But she needs to tell John that, all right? I feel disappointed when, all right, explain what's going on, what's causing that, all right? And it's not that John can't have friends, but it was because Anne wanted to spend time with him and she didn't know John had already made plans, all right? And so then the because is that, you know what, I like spending time with you, all right? And then what I need is, again, offering a win-win solution. This isn't about Anne getting what she wants and telling John he can't go out with his boys, but to be able to speak something that is, again, a win-win. So it might be, you know, John, I feel disappointed when you make plans, but we haven't talked about it before because I wanted to be with you, spend some time with you. All right, what I need is you know, for you to communicate with me. Go out with your buddies tonight, but please, can we talk about another time where we can get together? All right, and when Anne responds like that, John has a choice to make, and unfortunately, in relationships, not everybody responds back to you as you would like, but you are only in control of your expressions. You can't control other people, but also when you model behavior that is healthy, oftentimes other people will copy that, and over time they will develop those same skills. When you're done, please upload your worksheet to Canvas, and we will then move on to some more communication stuff in the next class period and wrap this unit up.